Forget everything you know about the cinematic roar. That bone-chilling, full-throated howl we hear in the movies is, well, it's a complete mistake. The reality is far stranger. You see, the T-Rex didn't actually have a larynx, which means it simply could not roar. If we look at its closest relatives, birds and crocodiles, they don't scream. They bellow and boom using specialized air sacs. Instead of a scream, imagine tight-lipped booms and coos that you feel in your chest more than you hear with your ears. This is where it gets fascinating. The inner ear anatomy of this predator suggests a specialized sensitivity to low-frequency sounds. It wasn't listening for a shout. It was tuned into the rhythmic rumble of distant herds and the heavy vibration of footsteps traveling through the earth. We've been taught to fear the sound, but the real terror was the silence, a predator that perceived the world as a series of deep, pulsing vibrations. Let's step back 68 to 65 million years ago, to the twilight of the dinosaur age. We are in western North America, on a landmass known as Laramidia. A shallow sea once sliced through the center of the land, stretching from the Arctic all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, leaving our predator in a world of humid, subtropical floodplains. Most of the fossils we find today are preserved in the Hell Creek Formation, covering Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and parts of Wyoming. If you could stand there now, you would feel the oppressive, heavy air of the Hell Creek ecosystem, where average temperatures hovered around 11 to 12 degrees Celsius. Now, it's strange to think that the world they walked in had no grass. Instead, you would see dense forests of conifers, palms, sycamores, and magnolia, with flowering trees providing a canopy of deep green. Moving through this undergrowth, the Tyrannosaurus rex doesn't look like a fluffy bird. While its smaller ancestors had feathers, this adult is armored in pebbly reptilian skin. Around it, the world is teeming with life. Triceratops make up nearly 40% of the large animals in these fossil beds, grazing in massive herds. Nearby, the duck-billed Edmontosaurus travel in large groups, and the low-slung, armored Ankylosaurus waits with its bone-shattering tail club. Further in the brush, the dome-skulled Pachycephalosaurus and the smaller Thescelosaurus move cautiously, knowing exactly what it means to be prey. To understand the real animal, we have to look at Sioux. Discovered in South Dakota in 1990, Sioux is one of the most complete skeletons ever found, approximately 90% complete. She now resides at the Field Museum in Chicago. But when you look at Sioux, you aren't seeing a static museum display. You're seeing a medical record of survival. Her bones show evidence of healed injuries, including bite wounds on her skull and broken ribs that knit back together over time. She even had fused tail vertebrae and possibly suffered from gout. It was a violent, brutal life. Now, consider the sheer scale of this creature. An adult T-Rex stretched around 12 meters or 40 feet from snout to tail, roughly the length of a city bus. Weighing between 6 and 7 tons, some individuals may have exceeded this weight. This wasn't just a predator. It was a massive biological engine of destruction. Something shifted in the air. Our predator is no longer just wandering, she is tracking. To do this, she relies on a biological machine of extreme precision. CT scans of the skull reveal huge olfactory bulbs, which tells us that tyrannosaurs had the keenest senses of smell in all of Dinosauria. This wasn't just a faint scent. It was a powerful olfactory system that allowed her to track prey from a considerable distance, filtering through the thick humidity of the Hell Creek floodplains. But smell is only the first stage of the hunt. As she moves closer, her eyes take over. Unlike many predators, the T-Rex had binocular vision and exceptional depth perception because of her large, wide-set eyes. This meant she could see long distances and judge the exact distance to her target with a visual acuity that rivaled that of modern eagles. How does a 7-ton animal process all this incoming data? The answer is in the skull. The brain was twice as large as those of other giant carnivores. This extra capacity was necessary to process high levels of sensory information in real time. She isn't just a mindless beast. She is a sensory-driven predator, calculating the wind, the scent, and the aural vibration of a distant triceratops, all converging into a single, hyper-focused point of intent. 7 tons of muscle and bone moving through a subtropical swamp should be loud. It should be a crashing, chaotic mess of snapped ferns and splashing mud. Yet, there is a contradiction here. The T-Rex didn't just stomp, it glided. Those massive feet were designed with specialized padding that acted as natural shock absorbers, allowing this giant to move with a silence that defies its own weight. It was a ghost in the floodplains. This wasn't some evolutionary fluke or a random mutation. When we look at the fossil record, we see that tyrannosaurs made up nearly a quarter of large predator specimens in Hell Creek deposits. This tells us the T-Rex was a perfected, established part of the ecosystem, a precision tool for hunting. But the silence is only the setup. The real secret is how that immense force is concentrated into deadly stilettos during the strike. Now the stealth ends, the predator lunges, and the air is suddenly filled with the sound of a 7-ton animal committing to a strike. This isn't a quick snap, it is a catastrophic collision. The T-Rex doesn't just bite, it pulverizes. When those jaws close, they deliver a force of 35,000 to 57,000 newtons. To put that in perspective, a saltwater crocodile, one of the most powerful biters alive today, only hits around 16,000 newtons. We are talking about a pressure of roughly 8,000 to 12,800 pounds concentrated into a single point of impact. But the real secret is in the hardware. Unlike the thin, blade-like teeth of other carnivores, the teeth of Tyrannosaurus rex were thick and conical. They weren't just meant to slice meat, they were designed to punch through bone. These large, conical teeth were strongly rooted in the jaw, allowing the animal to drive them deep into the prey without the teeth snapping under the pressure. If you look at the evidence, it's undeniable. We have found fossilized dung, known as coprolites, containing shattered bone fragments. This proves the T-Rex didn't just eat the soft tissue. It used those tips of giant, sharp, serrated teeth to crush and swallow the skeletons of its prey. One single strike from the posterior tooth area could effectively end the struggle in a matter of seconds. Once the kill is over, the real biological anomaly begins. Most reptiles can't chew, but the Tyrannosaurus rex evolved a mammal-like bone-crushing niche. This is called extreme osteophagy. It is not just about eating meat, it is about the internal chemistry of digesting bone. When we look at the fossil record, we see the evidence of this raw power. The first dinosaur fossils were uncovered in the early 19th century, but these were initially fragments like teeth and bits of bone without context. Today, the picture is far more complete. More than 10,000 dinosaur fossils have been discovered to date, with over 900 distinct species identified so far. This massive database allows us to see how specialized the T-Rex truly was. Between 2003 and 2022, scientists identified an average of about 45 new dinosaur species every year as the Earth slowly gives up its secrets, layer by layer. It is a strange irony that while we associate this animal with the entire age of dinosaurs, the T-Rex did not exist during the Jurassic period, making its role as the logo for Jurassic Park quite ironic. It was the final, perfected version of a predator designed to erase every trace of its prey. Those tiny arms are a joke in pop culture, but in biology, they are an optimization. If you look closely at the muscle attachment points on the humerus, the reality is far from comical. These limbs were short but powerful, with biceps and forearm flexors capable of curling over 200 kilograms. Think of it as a concentrated burst of power rather than a reach. When the predator had its prey locked in those massive jaws, those thick, curved claws were used for gripping and slashing during close combat. The arms weren't designed for walking or foraging. They were simply specialized tools for the final, violent struggle. It is a brilliant piece of biological efficiency. The animal didn't need long arms to kill. It just needed enough strength to hold its victim steady, while the jaws did the heavy lifting. While we often picture the solitary loner, the bones suggest something more complex. We see evidence of juveniles and adults found together, which hints at a social structure. To understand how this evolved, we have to look at the deep history of the Earth. Long ago, the world was a single vast landmass called Pangaea, a place of inland deserts and seasonal monsoons. The first dinosaurs appeared toward the end of the Triassic period, around 230 million years ago, starting as small, lightly built creatures. Around 201 million years ago, volcanic eruptions in the Atlantic region triggered a climate shift, clearing the way for dinosaurs to inherit the planet. Through the Jurassic period, the world became greener, wetter, and warmer, allowing animals to grow larger and more specialized. By the time the Cretaceous period began, around 145 million years ago, the supercontinents Laurasia and Gondwana were fragmenting. This was the longest chapter in dinosaur history, an era where giants like Argentinosaurus reached a staggering 77 tons. The T-Rex was the final, highly tuned result of this million-year journey. In Montana in 1908, the first T-Rex was uncovered and mounted for display. It was a landmark moment for science, but it came with a cost. Much of that skeleton was reconstructed from missing pieces, filling in the gaps of our knowledge with guesswork. Today, the struggle for these bones is no longer just about discovery, but about ownership. When a dinosaur in a billionaire's foyer is a story that can never be told, we lose the primary source of our history. We are trading the biological blueprints of the Cretaceous for a price tag, and in the process, the data that could redefine our understanding of the Tyrannosaurus rex is vanishing into private collections. From the 57,000 newtons of force capable of shattering a spine to the pebbly, armor-like skin that shielded it from the Cretaceous brush, the Tyrannosaurus rex was more than a movie monster. It was a masterpiece of biological engineering, a precision tool of the floodplains. We can stand in a museum today and look up at the towering skeleton of an animal that lived and bled 66 million years ago, seeing the healed fractures and the wear on the teeth. But the real bridge across time isn't the bone. It's the realization that this creature once breathed the same air we do, ruling a world that vanished in a heartbeat. If we continue to let these remains vanish into private vaults, what other secrets of the last emperor of Laramidia will remain forever silent?